For most of her adult life, Hania carried a single belief close to her heart. No matter how broken the world became, her bond with her son, Sahil, would remain unshakable. After surviving a bitter divorce and years of financial hardship, she often told friends that Sahil was the only reason she managed to wake up every morning with strength. To her, he wasn't just her child. He was her partner in survival, her quiet anchor, and her greatest pride. Their home was small, cluttered with old furniture and thrift store finds, but it was filled with warmth. Every night after dinner, they talked about school, life, and dreams. Hania believed their conversations were proof of a rare closeness. When Sahil promised her he would never lie, she believed him without hesitation. After all, she had sacrificed her youth, comfort, and a stable career to raise him safely. She trusted him more than she trusted herself. But beneath the surface of their beautiful harmony, something had already begun to shift. It started with small, almost harmless changes. Sahil, once open and talkative, began spending more time in his room, glued to his devices. He shut his door more often, claiming he needed privacy to focus. Whenever Hania entered unexpectedly, she would catch him minimizing screens or flipping his phone face down. She brushed it off as typical teenage behavior. Everyone warned her that boys his age become secretive, so she convinced herself nothing was wrong. Yet the unease lingered. Late at night, when she passed by his room, a thin line of light leaked from under the door. She would hear muffled voices, sometimes whispers, sometimes laughter, long after he was supposed to be asleep. When she asked about it, he gave vague answers, always with a tone that made her feel she was overreacting. And because she didn't want to be the strict mother or push him away, she let the doubts fade into the corners of her mind. Still, certain things were impossible to ignore. Important documents began disappearing from her handbag. Her office ID, which she always kept clipped to her jacket, went missing 3 times in a single month. One morning, she found her laptop open even though she was certain she had shut it the night before. She laughed these moments away with nervous humor, thinking maybe she was just tired or forgetful. But deep inside, a voice whispered, "Something's wrong." The hardest part was admitting she felt afraid not of her son, but of the possibility that he was drifting into a world she did not recognize. She feared that acknowledging the truth might shatter everything they had built together. Still, in her heart, she clung to her belief. Her son would never cross a dangerous line. Not him. Not the boy she raised with her own shaking hands. She had no idea that this comforting illusion was about to be destroyed, slowly, painfully, and beyond anything she ever expected. Over the next week, Hania found herself moving through her own home like a stranger, watching, observing, listening. She didn't want to spy on her son, but she couldn't shake the growing sense that something inside their walls had shifted. Every time she walked past Sahil's room, she felt as though he was guarding something, hiding behind that closed door as if it were a shield between them. The real turning point came on a Wednesday afternoon. Hania had returned home early from work due to a sudden power outage at the office. As she entered the house, the sound of footsteps rushed down the hallway. She caught a glimpse of Sahil darting into his room, slamming the door behind him. It wasn't the movement itself that bothered her. It was what she found a minute later, lying on the living room floor, her office key card. The same one she had torn the house apart trying to find last week. The same one that had caused her supervisor to joke, "You're too young to be losing your memory." She stared at the badge for a long time, her hand trembling slightly as she picked it up. Why would it be here, on the floor, when she hadn't used it that morning? Fighting the unease rising in her throat, she knocked on Sahil's door. He opened it halfway, blocking the inside of the room with his body, a gesture she had never seen from him before. "Sahil Beta, did you take my office key?" she asked gently. His reaction was too fast, too rehearsed. "No, why would I do that? Maybe you dropped it." The harshness in his tone startled her. It wasn't anger, it was fear disguised as anger. She could see it in the way he avoided eye contact, the sheen of sweat on his forehead, the restless tapping of his fingers, but she didn't press him. She didn't want to believe the worst. That evening, she stood outside his door again, listening. His voice floated through the wood, low and hurried. She heard sentences like, "I'm trying and just give me time." His tone held a desperation she didn't recognize. Suddenly, the talking stopped. The door swung open, and Sahil nearly collided with her. His face twisted with surprise, then frustration. "Why are you always listening to me?" he snapped. Her heart shrank at his words. The boy who once hugged her without warning was gone, replaced by someone distant and defensive. "I'm worried," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm fine," he barked, then shut the door with a force that echoed through her spine. That night, Hania lay awake thinking about her supervisor's recent announcement. Someone in their department had leaked confidential financial data. The company was quietly investigating, and the consequences could be severe. A terrifying thought pierced her mind, a thought she quickly pushed away. No, it can't be. Sahil would never, but deep inside, a mother's intuition stirred. Something was terribly wrong, and whatever it was, Sahil was in much deeper than she ever imagined. The following Monday began like any other, but Hania couldn't ignore the heaviness in her chest as she walked into her office. Her mind replayed Sahil's nervous glances, his sharp defensiveness, and that keycard lying abandoned on the living room floor. She tried to bury her fear under routine emails, reports, and morning meetings, but it surfaced again the moment her supervisor, Mr. Shakir, called her into his office. His expression was grave, too grave for a casual discussion. "Hania," he began slowly, "we've been investigating the data breach I mentioned last week. We found something, and it concerns you." Her pulse quickened. "Me?" He slid a folder across the desk. Inside were glossy printed photos of confidential client files, internal reports, and private financial summaries. But what made her breath catch wasn't the content, it was the setting. The photos were taken inside her office at her desk, her keyboard, her notepad, her mug sitting exactly where she always left it. The timestamp glowed in bold numbers, 11:47 p.m., last Thursday. Her heart dropped. That was the night she had passed by Sahil's room, seen the light under his door, and assumed he was doing homework. She remembered how restless he'd seemed that day, how he avoided her eyes when she asked if everything was okay. Mr. Shakir continued speaking, but his voice sounded distant, submerged beneath a rising wave of dread. "Hania, you're one of our most trusted employees. We don't suspect you intentionally leaked anything. But someone used your credentials, your key, your office." Her mouth felt dry. She managed to whisper, "How did they get inside?" "That's what we need to figure out. Security didn't see you enter after hours." He paused. "Is there any chance someone else has access to your key?" For a moment she couldn't breathe. Did she dare say her son's name? Did she dare even think it? Images flashed in her mind, the key card on the floor, his trembling voice, the late-night calls, the forced anger, the locked door, the lies. She forced herself to stay composed. I'm not sure," Mr. Shakir sighed with sympathy. "Take the day off, think about it. If you remember anything, any detail that could help, let me know." Hania left the office feeling hollow, each step heavier than the last. Outside, the sun shone brightly, mocking the storm inside her. When she got home, she sat on the sofa, clutching the folder of evidence. The truth she had been running from pressed against her chest. Sahil had her key. Sahil had been awake at 11:47 p.m. Sahil had been acting secretive, and someone had taken those pictures from her desk. But confronting the idea felt like betrayal. He was her son, her only family, her entire world. How could she even imagine him crossing a line that could destroy her career and ruin their lives? Yet the last photo in the file shattered the final piece of denial. In the corner of the picture, caught in the screen's reflection, was the faint outline of a hoodie. A hoodie Hania recognized instantly. Sahil's favorite gray one. The betrayal wasn't confirmed out loud, but in her soul she knew. The storm was only beginning. The house was unbearably quiet when Hania walked through the front door. Every sound, the click of the lock, the soft thud of her shoes, felt magnified, as though the walls themselves were waiting for her to uncover what they already knew. She moved through the living room like someone walking into a memory, fragile and unsure. She needed answers, and she knew exactly where they would be found. Sahil wouldn't be home for another 2 hours. That small window of time felt both like a gift and a curse. With trembling hands, she pushed open his bedroom door. The familiar scent of his deodorant and laundry detergent hit her instantly, stirring memories of a boy who used to run to her with scraped knees and stories from school. That boy felt far away now. She stood in the center of the room, unsure where to begin. The desk, the drawers, the backpack. Her heart pounded like a warning drum, but she forced herself to move. She started with the desk. The first drawer held nothing unusual, old pens, gum wrappers, a broken headphone, but the second drawer, that was different. Inside it sat a small black phone she had never seen before. Her stomach tightened. She turned it on hesitantly, no password. The screen lit up instantly with message previews. Send the next batch tonight. Don't forget her login info. Payment after proof. Her breath caught. This wasn't harmless rebellion. This wasn't some teenage prank. This was deliberate, calculated, dangerous. With growing dread, she opened the photo gallery. Her hands shook as image after image revealed the truth she had tried so hard not to see. confidential documents photographed under the bright office light, her keyboard in the frame, her company files spread across her desk. The worst part wasn't the betrayal itself. It was the motives laid out plainly in his chats. A message thread with a contact saved as AZ Yembro made her chest ache. Sahil, will I get enough to buy the new console? Azim, if you get me everything I asked for, don't get scared now. Sahil, I'm not scared. My mom trusts me, she never checks anything. Hania closed her eyes, her heart twisting painfully. She scrolled further and found a history of online bets, losses, desperate attempts to win back what he had lost. His desire for quick money had pushed him into a world he didn't understand, one where people used him, manipulated him, and encouraged him to dig deeper. In the corner of the room, his backpack lay unzipped. When she opened it, her worst fears were confirmed. Inside was a stack of printed documents from her office, documents she didn't even realize were missing. The betrayal felt complete. Sahil hadn't stumbled into trouble accidentally. He had made choice after choice, crossing line after line, until he stood on the edge of a cliff neither of them could escape. Hania sank onto his bed, clutching the stolen files. Tears blurred her vision, not from anger but from heartbreak. This was more than a mistake. This was a violation of trust so deep it fractured something inside her. The boy she thought she knew, the honest, kind, loyal son, had been replaced by someone she barely recognized. And now she had to face a reality she never imagined. Her own child had put her career, her reputation, and their future in jeopardy, all for money, pressure, and the illusion of independence. The line was crossed, and nothing would ever be the same again. Sahil came home just after sunset, humming lightly as he kicked off his shoes, completely unaware that the walls of their home were about to collapse around him. Hania stood in the living room with the hidden phone in her hand and the stolen documents beside her, but when she heard his footsteps, her courage nearly dissolved. This was her son, her only family. How could she confront him without breaking both of them? But then she remembered the messages, the lies, the danger he had dragged them into. She steadied her breath. Sahil, she called softly. He froze at the sound of her voice. Something in her tone must have warned him. He walked into the living room slowly, his face pale with an instinctive guilt he couldn't hide. "What's wrong?" he asked. Instead of answering, she held up the black phone. For a moment, the world seemed to stop. His eyes widened not in anger but in raw fear, fear that confirmed everything. Where did you get that?" he whispered. "In your room," she said, "along with these." She pointed to the printed documents and her office files. "Sahil, why?" He opened his mouth, closed it, then looked away, shame burning across his face. "Mom, it's not what you think." "Then tell me what it is," she said, voice cracking. "Tell me why you used my key, why you went to my office, why you took photos of my files. Tell me why you betrayed my trust." The word betrayed landed between them like a stone. Sahil's shoulders collapsed. "I didn't mean for any of this to happen." His eyes glistened. "I swear I didn't." "Then what did you mean to do?" she asked, stepping closer. "This isn't a small lie, this is illegal. This could ruin everything I've worked for." He wiped his face with trembling hands. For a long moment, he stayed silent. Then the truth tumbled out of him in broken pieces. "It started with a stupid online bet," he confessed. "I lost money I didn't have. I kept trying to win it back. Someone online told me they could help me if I could get certain documents. He made it seem like no big deal. I thought I'd take a picture, get paid, and stop." Hania felt her lungs tight. "So you risked my job for money?" He nodded, eyes full of regret. "I thought I could fix everything before you found out, but then he kept asking for more, and I didn't know how to stop." "Why didn't you come to me?" she whispered. "Why didn't you tell me you were in trouble?" "Because you already have so much pressure," he cried. "I didn't want to be another problem." Those words pierced her deeper than any betrayal. She had worked so hard to be strong for him that he had learned to hide his struggles instead of trusting her with them. Sahil sank to his knees. "I'm so sorry, Mom. I messed up everything." Hania felt tears spill down her cheeks. She wanted to hold him, to scream at him, to rewind time and undo every wrong turn he had taken. But the truth was undeniable. Her son had committed a serious offense. Her job was at risk. And the choice she now faced was devastating. Should she protect him and endanger her integrity, her career, their future? Or tell the truth and let him face consequences that might scar him forever? It was the kind of decision no mother should ever have to make. And the weight of it crushed the breath from her chest. That night, Hania didn't sleep, not even for a minute. She sat at the dining table with the evidence spread before her. The hidden phone, the stolen files, the printed documents, and the messages that revealed the truth she wished she could unsee. Across the hall, Sahil cried himself to sleep. Every sob from his room sliced through her, but she didn't go to him, not because she didn't love him, but because love, for the first time, wasn't enough to fix what had been broken. She felt torn open. On one side was the boy she had raised with every ounce of strength she possessed. On the other was her job, her reputation, her principles, the foundation of their survival. If she stayed silent, she would be covering a crime. Her career could be destroyed. Her integrity would be lost. She could even face legal consequences. If she told the truth, Sahil would be forced into a world of consequences he wasn't ready for. A world that might change him forever. No mother should ever have to choose between saving her child and saving the future that allows them both to live. As dawn crept through the curtains, painting the room with a cold, unforgiving light, Hania made her decision. She walked to Sahil's room. He sat up when he heard her enter, his face swollen from crying, his eyes filled with fear and shame. "Mom, are you going to leave me?" he whispered. Her heart cracked, but her voice stayed steady. "No, Beta, I'm not leaving you, but we have to do the right thing." His lips trembled. "I don't want to go to jail." She knelt beside him and took his hands. "You won't. You're a minor and this is your first offense, but we can't hide this. Hiding it will only destroy us both." He shook with fear, but for the first time in weeks, he didn't look away from her. He nodded slowly, accepting the truth he had been running from. Together, they went to her office. Walking through those doors felt like walking into a storm. But Hania kept her head high as she met her supervisor. She explained everything, her son's actions, his desperation, the manipulation he'd faced. She didn't make excuses. She accepted responsibility for failing to see the signs earlier. The investigation took hours, but the company chose compassion. Because Hania came forward herself, and because Sahil was a minor coerced by an adult, they opted against legal charges. Instead, Sahil was required to attend mandatory counseling and a rehabilitation program for cyber risk and gambling behavior. It wasn't easy. The weeks that followed were filled with therapy sessions, hard conversations, and rebuilding routines. Trust didn't return overnight. Sometimes it felt as if it never would. But slowly, painfully, something changed. Sahil opened up more. He shared his fears, his insecurities, and the loneliness that had pushed him toward the wrong people. Hania realized how much she had missed, not because of neglect, but because she had tried so hard to be strong that he never felt allowed to be weak. One evening, months later, Sahil told her quietly, "Mom, thank you. You didn't give up on me." She held him close, tears slipping into his hair. In her final reflection, Hania understood something profound. Infidelity isn't only about lovers. It's about broken trust that must be rebuilt with honesty, courage, and painful love. Her son had crossed a line she never thought he would, but she would walk every step of the healing journey with him. Because sometimes, the hardest love is the one that chooses truth over protection, so both hearts can grow again.